A scattered dream that's like a far-off memory. A far-off memory that's like a scattered dream. I want to line the pieces up. Yours and mine.
Kingdom Hearts 2 was released on the PlayStation 2 in Japan on December 22, 2005, and in America on March 28, 2006. This game takes place 1 year after the last one, so let's not waste any time and just get right to it. After the opening cutscene recaps the event of Kingdom Hearts 1 in Chain of Memories, and I cry while listening to Sanctuary, the story starts off in a place called the Realm of Darkness. A boy in a black coat appears on a beach and approaches a man in a black coat. I should also note that this is the same unknown figure that Sora fought back in Kingdom Hearts 1. The man tells the boy that he went to see Sora and that he looks a lot like him too. The boy questions who the man is, but the man says that isn't important. The man asks the boy the same thing, to which the boy tries to answer. We are then shown some scattered memories of Kingdom Hearts 1, starting with the beginning and up to Destiny's Island being destroyed. We then see a boy named Roxas waking up in his room in Twilight Town. He comments about having the same dream again. Roxas runs off to meet his friends at their hideout, these friends being Hayner, Pence, and Olette. They discuss recent crimes that have happened around the town, most notably different photos to which they are being blamed for stealing by Cypher and his gang. They even discover that they can't even say the word photo at all. They decide to investigate around the town to try and find a way to clear their names. They encounter Cypher's gang and Roxas challenges him to a fight, which Roxas manages to win. As Pence tries to take a picture of Roxas's victory, a white figure steals it and runs away. Figuring that it's the real thief, Roxas chases after it and corners it at the gates of the mansion. The white figure says that they have come for Roxas. He fights against it, but his bat having no effect. However, the Keyblade appears before Roxas and he uses it to defeat the white figure. He gets the photos back and the word even comes back as well. Pence then notices that all of the stolen photos happen to have Roxas in them. We then see static as the computer says that restoration is at 12%. In a dark room, we see Diz and a cloaked figure talking about how the organization has found them, and that Naminé must hurry. We then see more memories of the first game up until Sora sealed the Agrabah keyhole. On the second day, Roxas wakes up and wonders what the Keyblade is. He later accidentally hits the cloaked figure with a stick and meets up with his friends. They discuss plans about wanting to go to the beach before the summer ends and decide to work some part-time jobs to earn enough money to go to the beach. They also talk about the upcoming struggle match, and Roxas and Hayner agree to face each other in the finals. After getting enough money, they meet up at the train station, but Roxas accidentally loses the money in Olette's pouch, thinking that the cloaked figure he bumped into earlier stole it. They eat sea salt ice cream together on the clock tower while Roxas remembers that the cloaked figure had asked him if he could feel Sora. Static appears again and we see that restoration is now at 28%. We see the cloaked figure with the pouch of money with Diz talking about preventing Roxas from leaving the town. We then see more memories of the first game, showing Sora traveling the different worlds. In another room, Naminé watches the big pod while Roxas wonders who she is. On the third day, Roxas runs into his friends, but before he can approach them, they suddenly freeze. Naminé then appears before him and says hello before leaving, the world unfreezing. Roxas then follows Naminé to the mansion, but encounters more of the white figures who chase after him. He runs into Cypher and his gang who help Roxas fight against the white figures. The world freezes again, and when Naminé tells Roxas to use the Keyblade, he is transported to the world of Dive to the Heart. When there, he fights against more of the white figures and, eventually coming across a giant one, which he manages to defeat. He is then sucked into the darkness until Naminé saves him. Naminé asks Roxas if he remembers his true name, but the cloaked figure suddenly grabs Naminé and forbids her from speaking anymore. Roxas then wakes back up in Twilight Town with the white figures gone. Cypher and the gang celebrate till Hayner and the others see Roxas with them. Hayner is upset that Roxas was with Cypher because teenage angst and stuff. We then see Static again and that restoration is at 48%. Diz and the cloaked figure talk about Naminé's interference, just caring about accomplishing their goal. We then see more memories of the first game up to Sora stealing the keyhole in Hollow Bastion. On the fourth day, Roxas heads over to the struggle match. The four finalists being Roxas, Hayner, Cypher, and Vivi, who is a member of Cypher's gang. The winner will have the chance to fight against the champion Seltzer and take his title. The first match is between Hayner and Roxas, which Roxas wins. The two make up again, though Hayner is upset about losing. The next match is against Cypher and Vivi, which Vivi manages to win in a matter of seconds. Cypher tells Roxas that wasn't Vivi. When Roxas faces against Vivi in the finals, the world freezes again and Vivi turns into one of the white figures. He fights them off with the Keyblade when Axel arrives and is happy to have finally found Roxas. He tells Roxas that this town is just a creation and tries to take Roxas with him. After they fight, Diz shows up and the two try to have Roxas trust him. Roxas screams out for his friends and the world goes back to normal, with Roxas having defeated Vivi. Roxas then faces off against Seltzer and he manages to win, becoming the new struggle champion. The four celebrate on the clock tower as Roxas shares a piece of the trophy with each of them. Roxas accidentally falls off of the tower and we see an older Kairi and Selphine walking home from school. Selphine talks about wanting to go to the island again, but that Titus and Waka won't go with her. Kairi asks her about the two boys that they used to play with, Riku and another boy that they can't remember. Kairi then says that she swore never to go back to the island until she can remember everything about the boy. Roxas then talks to Kairi, thinking her to be Namine. They talk with each other about Roxas' dreams of Sora, and Sora calls out to Kairi, allowing her to finally remember his name. Kairi then runs to the ocean and sends out a bottle with a letter inside of it, saying that the letter will eventually find its way to Sora. We then see that restoration is at 79%, and we see Diz in the cloaked figure with Roxas' piece of the trophy. Diz talks about how Namine wasn't born like other nobodies, and that she has the power to interfere with the hearts and memories of Sora and those connected to him. Diz then asks the cloaked figure his name, and he pulls off his hood, revealing him to be Ansem, Seeker of Darkness.
It's an honor, Ansem.
In a white room full of cloaked figures, Axel tells him that it's too soon to get rid of Roxas and that he can bring him back. Being threatened to be turned into a dusk, Axel agrees to eliminate Roxas. On the fifth day, Roxas wakes up, not knowing whether what happened yesterday was real or not. The gang decides to investigate the 7 wonders of the town as their summer homework. In their investigation, Roxas sees a mysterious train entering the station, though the others cannot see it. Roxas then decides to investigate the mansion, and Pence tells him about a girl in a white dress that people sometimes see in the window. Roxas is then teleported inside, where he meets Namine again. Roxas sees a picture of him and Axel together, and Namine says that the two of them are best friends, though Roxas laughs this off. He questions Namine about what's been going on with him. Namine tells him about putting Sora's memories back together and that it's been affecting Roxas, and that in order for Sora to become completely whole again, he needs Roxas. One question, Namine tells Roxas that he was never meant to exist. Returning back, Roxas and the four talk about the fair tomorrow, the last day of summer. In the mansion, Ansem tells Diz that his memories of Sora has returned to him. He questions Diz about his end goal and he replies that he wants revenge. Diz then tasks Ansem with disposing of Namine, as she wasn't even meant to exist in the first place. We then see that restoration is at 98% and we see the rest of the scenes of the first game. However, when showing scenes of Sora finding Castle Oblivion, the screen freaks out and turns off. We then see an older Riku fighting against a cloaked boy who seems to be wielding 2 Keyblades at once. When Riku questions him why he has the Keyblade, the cloaked boy attacks him. On the 6th day, Roxas meets up with his friends, but they seem to not notice him there and even pass right through him. He then runs into Axel and uses the Keyblade to fight the right figures and escapes. Compelled by Diz, Roxas makes his way to the mansion. Seeing one of Namine's pictures inside the mansion, Roxas recalls a memory. We see Roxas in a black coat in a city walking away. When questioned by Roxas about leaving the organization, Axel says that he cannot turn his back on the organization. Roxas then asks Namine about Organization 13 and says that they are a group of incomplete people who are desperately searching for something, that being Kingdom Hearts. When Roxas asks what's going to happen to him, Namine is taken away by Diz by force. However, she does manage to say that nobody's like them or only half a person, and that he won't disappear, he'll be whole, swearing that they'll meet again. Roxas makes his way deeper into the castle and remembers Organization 13, with him being one of their members. He remembers again his fight with Riku and that Riku managed to knock him out. He brings Roxas to Diz and they begin their plan to bring back Sora. In a fit of rage, Roxas destroys all of the computers and eventually encounters Axel again. The two fight for the last time, with Roxas managing to defeat Axel, this time using 2 Keyblades. Back in the flashback before leaving, Roxas says that no one will miss him.
That's not true. I would.
Before he disappears, Axel promises to see Roxas again in the next life. Coming across a room of pods, Roxas sees Donald and Goofy sleeping and finally encounters Sora, with Diz waiting there for him. Angered by him, Roxas tries to attack, but Diz here is nothing but a projection. As Sora's pod starts to open, Roxas becomes weaker and says that Sora must be lucky.
Looks like my summer vacation is over.
And with that, the prologue is over, and the real game can finally begin. We see the mysterious train again as King Mickey in a black coat exits it. In the pod, Sora is awakened by Donald and Goofy. They wonder where they are and how they got there, and also see that Jiminy's journal is blank, with only the words "Thank Namine" left, though they have no idea who that is. They go outside to investigate and run into Hainer and the gang. They tell them about someone with big round ears who was looking for them at the train station. Figuring that to be King Mickey, the trio run out to meet him. Once there, they are suddenly attacked by the white figures and are almost defeated by them. But Mickey arrives and saves them. Before they can say anything to him, he tells them to board the train. He gives them a pouch and then suddenly runs off. While wondering where Riku is, they decide to board the train like Mickey said. Before they do, Hayner and the others meet up with them to say goodbye. Olette then notices that the pouch that Sora has is identical to the one that she has. They leave the town, promising to return again soon. Sora ends up crying too, though he doesn't know why. In the pouch, Sora discovers a blue stone, the one that previously belonged to Roxas. As the train leaves, Axel, Naminé, and Ansem look on. Ansem allows Axel and Naminé to leave in thanks for helping him in Castle Oblivion. Axel and Naminé then depart together. The train takes the trio to a world called the Mysterious Tower. At the entrance, they encounter Pete, someone who was banished by Mickey for the trouble he caused. Pete tells them that he plans to make the master of the tower, Yd Cid, into a Heartless to add to Maleficent's army. When they tell Pete that Maleficent is dead, he attacks them with Heartless in a fit of rage. After they win, they run into the tower to meet Yd Cid, who is Mickey's old master. They meet Yd Cid inside, who proceeds to tell them about their upcoming journey. He tells them about the nobodies. He tells them that when somebody's heart yields to the darkness, they will turn into a Heartless. However, if someone with a strong heart becomes a Heartless, their now empty body will act on their own and become a nobody, a being without a heart that was never meant to exist in the first place. They also pretend to have hearts and possess no feelings. The regular nobodies usually take on the form of a dusk, their appearances varying. Yd Cid then tells the trio about Organization 13, a group of black-cloaked nobodies who command the dust. He also reveals that Mickey is traveling the world to fight the Heartless and discover the mystery behind Organization 13. The three good fairies create new clothes for Sora with new powers and abilities. Yd Cid also gives them a new gummy ship and tells them that in order to discover the new pathways to the worlds, they have to open up certain gates. The trio then board the gummy ship and head off on their journey. Meanwhile, Maleficent's crow brings her robes to the three good fairies. Seeing this, they start to remember Maleficent and all the horrible things she did. This somehow causes Maleficent to come back to life. How? Who the hell knows? The trio travel to Hollow Bastion, which is being rebuilt and restored. Pete goes back to Maleficent's hideout and discovers that she isn't really dead. Arriving in the world, the trio come across Yuffie and fight off a bunch of dusts. Yuffie brings the trio to meet up with Leon, Aerith, Cid, and Merlin at the Hollow Bastion Restoration Committee base. The trio offers to help them with the town's Heartless and Nobody problem. Aerith gives them membership cards and they meet Leon outside in the Bailey. Once there, Leon shows them a big chasm filled with Heartless. Suddenly, Organization 13 appears before them, mocks Sora, and then disappears. However, one of them ends up sticking behind, this one being called Xigbar. Xigbar mentions that the look that Sora is giving him was the exact same look as someone else. He leaves and Sora is confused by his words. The membership card then starts to glow and Sora uses it to open up a new pathway. The trio give their goodbyes and heads out. Meanwhile, Organization 13 talk about Sora and his wielding of the Keyblade. The leader tells them to follow Sora on his adventure and make it one that he will remember. The trio travel to the Land of Dragons and reunite with Mushu, who was a summon in Kingdom Hearts 1. They team up with Mulan, Shang, and the Chinese army to defeat Shang Yu and open the new pathway. They then travel to Beast's castle and reunite with the Beast. However, the Beast seems to ignore them and pushes them aside, taking a Rose along with him. They run into Belle and the servants and they tell them what's been happening to the Beast. In the Beast's room, Beast is influenced by Organization 13 member named Xaldin. Xaldin tries to make the Beast distrust Belle to eventually turn him into a Heartless. When the trio arrives, Xaldin leaves and they confront the Beast, managing to turn him back to normal. They go off together and rescue Belle from a giant Heartless. After defeating the Heartless, the Beast apologizes to Belle and the two make up. Sora opens a new pathway and the trio travels on. The trio then travels to Olympus Coliseum where they decide to help Megara to get Hades to stop attacking Hercules so much. They find that Pete has teamed up with Hades and they plot to turn Hercules into a Heartless. The trio team up with a dead man named Aaron and escape the underworld together, fighting off Cerberus. Later on, they travel back to the underworld when Megara is kidnapped by Hades. They run into another Organization 13 member, Demyx. Demyx asks Sora if he is Roxas, to which Sora dismisses. Regretfully, Demyx attacks Sora as per his orders. Sora manages to defend him off and Demyx disappears, asking Roxas to come back to them. Traveling onward, the trio help Hercules defeat Pete and save Megara. They then fight the giant Hydra and defeat it. Sora opens up a new pathway and the trio travels on. Meanwhile, Pete informs Maleficent about what happened while she was gone. We then flash to Disney Castle as Queen Minnie sees that the castle is being taken over by Dark Thorns and Heartless. The trio travel to the castle and save Queen Minnie. They manage to fend off the Heartless and learn that Maleficent plans to turn the castle into her new hideout. Asking Merlin for help, he creates a door that leads to a special world, where someone is causing a trouble in Disney Castle. They then find themselves in the past, in a world called Timeless River. They find Pete and prevent him from stealing the castle's cornerstone of light. They then banish him from the past, locking the door behind him. Back in the present, Sora opens up a new pathway and the trio give their goodbyes and travel on. The trio then travels to Port Royal where they find that Pete has teamed up with some undead pirates, led by Captain Barbossa. They team up with Jack Sparrow to defeat Barbossa and save Elizabeth. Sora opens up a new pathway and the trio travels on. The trio then travels to Atlantica, but fuck that noise. The trio then travel to Halloween Town where Maleficent has resurrected Oogie Boogie with plans on turning Santa Claus into a Heartless. The trio teams up with Jack Skellington to defeat him and save Santa Claus. Sora opens up a new pathway and the trio travels on. The trio then travels to Agrabah where they team up with Aladdin to stop Pete who plans to obtain Jafar's lamp and turn him into a Heartless. They defeat him and his Heartless and Sora opens up a new pathway. The trio travels on. The trio then travels to the Pride Lands where they discover that Pete has teamed up with the evil ruler Scar. They reunite with Simba, who is a summon in Kingdom Hearts 1. They help him defeat Scar so that Sora can assume his place on the throne. Sora opens up a new pathway and the trio travel on. Elsewhere, we see Pluto lost in a city. He sees Axel and chases after him, jumping into a portal. Meanwhile, on Destiny's Island, Kairi says that maybe waiting isn't enough.
My thoughts exactly. If you have a dream, don't wait. Act. One of life's little rules. Got it memorized?
Axel attempts to take Kairi with her, saying that they'll go see Sora together. Pluto then appears as they are surrounded by dust. Kairi hears a whistle and sees a portal opening, which Kairi uses to escape. In a world in between, Kairi and Pluto travel through a door of light where they end up in Twilight Town, meeting Hayner, Pence, and Olette. The trio travels back to Twilight Town where they save Cypher and his gang from a bunch of dust. After defeating them, a member of Organization 13 appears, Syax. He asks them if they've seen Axel and says that he is currently working independently from the organization. He tells Sora that Axel will try and turn Sora into a Heartless. Before leaving, Syax tells Sora to continue fighting the Heartless and to not become reckless and suffer the same as to what happened to Riku. As thanks for saving them, Cypher gives them the Struggle Trophy, saying that it belongs to the strongest person in Twilight Town. They run into Hanger and the gang and they tell the trio that Kairi was here but was taken away by Axel, Pluto following along. Swearing to save Kairi from Organization 13, Sora discovers that there are 2 blue stones and that the sensation of it feels familiar. Sora opens up a new pathway and the trio travels on. Meanwhile, Syax talks to the leader about fulfilling his mission. When Syax asks about Axel, the leader says that Axel is foolish for trying to retrieve what he lost, when it never existed in the first place. The trio travels back to Hollow Bastion and meet Cloud again. He tells them that he is looking for a man named Sephiroth. He tells them to keep a lookout for him. Aerith arrives and she makes Cloud promise her that no matter how far away he goes, he'll always come back to her. Heading off to meet Leon in the castle, the trio encounter the Gullwings, Yuna, Riku, and Pain. They ask Sora what Leon and the gang are up to, and Riku accidentally reveals that they are working for Maleficent. They vanish and the trio makes their way to the castle. They eventually find him and discover Ansem's research room. There they meet a woman named Tifa who asks if they've seen a spiky-haired boy. Not getting any answers, she checks around the room and eventually leaves. They find Leon and they show him Ansem's secret computer room. As they try to ask the computer about where Riku and Kairi is, Stitch, coming the fuck out of nowhere, falls from the ceiling and messes around on the keyboard. Donald tries to get him off but accidentally angers the computer who sucks the trio inside. They enter the world inside the computer, Space Paranoids. They are captured by the Heartless and a man named Stark. They meet Tron and team up together to get out of the computer. They manage to activate a terminal to return the trio to Hollow Bastion. Tron tells them to find a password that will allow them to access the DTD, to get access to the data in the computer, and that the main user of the system is Ansem. The trio teleport back and manages to find a secret phrase behind Ansem's giant picture, thanks to the help of Tifa, the phrase being Door to Darkness, DTD. King Mickey then arrives and the 4 of them reunite excitedly. Mickey tells them that the password might be the names of the 7 princesses of Heart, as they're what you need to open the door to darkness. When Mickey tells them that they can use the research to find out where Ansem is, Leon tells them to go back and help Tron before Sora has a chance to respond. Back in the computer, they team up with Tron again and use the passwords to access Ansem's research data. Tron then tells the trio that it was Ansem that created him in the system, but that it was also Ansem that created the MCP and made the system what it is now. Tron believes that they might actually be 2 different people though. The trio leave the computer with Tron leaving a message of thanks behind. They use the passwords to access the data, and while they are unsuccessful at first, they reveal a picture of a blonde man. Mickey sees the picture and reveals it to be Ansem the Wise. Confused, Sora shows Mickey the giant picture of Ansem and questions him about this. Now, strap in people because this is when shit starts to get confusing. It turns out that Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, the villain from the first game, wasn't actually the real Ansem.
You mean...
The evil Ansem was the Heartless of Ansem the Wise's apprentice, Xehanort. Xehanort, along with 5 other apprentices, betrayed Ansem the Wise and took over his research, banishing Ansem away, accidentally causing Hollow Bastion to fall into darkness so long ago. Mickey also says that the leader of Organization 13 is Xehanort's nobody, Xemnas. Did you get all that? Good. When Sora asks Mickey about Riku, Mickey doesn't give him an answer, telling Sora that he made a promise to Riku to keep his whereabouts a secret from Sora. When Sora tells Mickey that the organization has kidnapped Kairi, he decides to team up with the trio, but before they can do anything else, an explosion happens outside and they rush out to see what happens. And now begins the battle of the Hollow Bastion. Maleficent and P has sent their army of Heartless to invade the castle, wanting to claim it as their own. However, an army of Dust has also arrived and the two groups fight each other. The trio then encounter the Gullwings again, who are upset at Maleficent for leaving them behind. Sora tells them that they should help out Leon and the gang, promising to give them treasure if they do. Exiting the castle, the trio encounters Sephiroth, who asks for the whereabouts of Cloud. They refuse to answer and Sephiroth leaves. The trio move on and finally witness the battle that's happening outside. We see the Heartless storming Hollow Bastion. We see Yuffie and Aerith fighting against them. We see Stitch and the Gullwings fighting against them as well. We see Cloud and Leon teaming up to fight. Sephiroth then approaches Cloud and he angrily attacks him. Sephiroth escapes and Cloud chases after him, with Tifa right behind. Back with the trio, they catch up with Mickey, who tells them to leave the battle to everyone else and go find Riku and Kairi. They refuse and leap into the battle. Meanwhile, we see Xemnas entering the computer room and putting in a special CD and a set of passwords. This opens up a secret chamber and he descends a long winding staircase. On the way down, we hear the voices of Ansem the Wise and Xehanort arguing about researching what is inside people's hearts. Xemnas passes through a series of jail cells and makes it to a room with a single chair in it.
It has been far too long, friend.
We are then presented with a flashback which takes place before the events of Chain of Memories. We see Vexen confronting Zexion about the whereabouts of Xemnas. Zexion suggests that he is in the Chamber of Repose. Vexen walks off angrily and Xigbar arrives. He then asks Zexion if he knows about Xemnas' secret. Xigbar then talks about a long time ago when a bunch of warriors with key-shaped swords appeared and unleashed a spectacular battle. He says that when that battle ended, all that was left was a man lying unconscious without his memories. That man was Xehanort, who was found and taken in by Ansem the Wise. He then brings up the Chamber of Repose, where the original 6 apprentices spent their time researching the darkness in people's hearts, a graveyard that was previously sealed off by Ansem. Xemnas unlocked the place and built a room in the back for himself. Xigbar says that sometimes he can hear 2 people talking inside. When he questions Zexion what it could be, Zexion tells Xigbar to focus on the preparations of their new facility, Castle Oblivion. Xigbar feels like Xemnas has a plan with the castle that he didn't share with the rest of them.
The Chamber of Repose is part of a pair. The Chamber of Waking is the other. Another graveyard, if you want to call it that. It was constructed by someone other than Xemnas himself. And that's where he'll find it. That's where he'll find his other friend.
Back in the present, the trio comes across Demyx, who challenges him to a fight, calling Sora a traitor. They manage to defeat him and Demyx dies. Coming across Mickey again, Goofy is knocked out by a rock and is seemingly killed in a scene that I can never watch without laughing my ass off. In a rage, they run off to join the battle. Catching up with Donald and Goofy, they discover that Goofy is still alive and they happily reunite. The trio then eventually encounters Xemnas and Mickey remembers where he met Xehanort for the first time. When visiting Ansem the Wise to seek his advice, Xehanort appears, asking his master about continuing research on hearts and the doors to other worlds. Ansem refuses his apprentice's wishes, which upsets Xehanort. Back in the present, Mickey goes to confront Xemnas as the trio are surrounded by Heartless. Sora goes to fight in the best fight in these games ever, the Battle of the 1000 Heartless. After managing to defeat them all, the trio catches up with Mickey and Xemnas. Mickey goes to attack Xemnas and the 2 of them suddenly disappear. Axel then appears and tells Sora about the organization's plan, to have Sora fight the Heartless and release their hearts. When enough of these hearts gather up, Kingdom Hearts will be revealed to them. When Sora confronts Axel about kidnapping Kairi, he apologizes. Saïx appears and Axel flees. Saïx sicks more Heartless onto Sora, who refuses to fight them and fall into the organization's plan. Trapped, Maleficent shows up to save them, helping them escape. Leon and Cloud watch them leave, wishing them luck. Elsewhere, Saïx tells Xemnas that Sora knows about their plan now. Xemnas tells them to continue to test Sora, to see if he is still worthy enough for their attention. In a void of darkness, the trio come across a cloaked figure who gives them some sea salt ice cream and a pitcher. The pitcher containing Hayner, Pence, and Olette with Roxas. Sora then opens up a new pathway and the trio travel on. They see that all the worlds are in trouble again and decide to go visit them all. First they go to the Land of Dragons. They team up with Mulan, who is chasing a member of Organization 13. They then are faced with an army of small Heartless, with Sora coming across a cloaked figure. After some fighting, the figure runs off to the palace with Sora and the others following behind, spotting a giant Heartless on the way as well. They track the figure down, and when Sora wonders if the figure is Riku, he realizes that he is someone different than before. The figure pulls off his hood and reveals himself to be Xigbar. He escapes and the group goes to defeat the giant Heartless. The Emperor tells the trio that Riku had come to warn them of the giant Heartless earlier. They then travel to Beast's castle and they are all confronted by Xaldin, angering the Beast. They realize that Xaldin has stolen Beast's rose and they chase after him. Xaldin tells Sora that the organization is planning on using Kingdom Hearts to fully become whole and complete again. Finally cornering him, they see that Xaldin has also kidnapped Belle. He asks the Beast to make a choice, Belle or the rose. The Beast chooses Belle as she manages to punch Xaldin and steal the rose from him. Belle then runs away as the group fights Xaldin. They defeat him and Xaldin dies. Belle and the Beast reconcile as the trio says their goodbyes. They then travel to Port Royal where they and Jack come across another member of Organization 13, Luxord. He uses a Heartless to reactivate the curse that is on Jack currently, but the group manages to reverse it. They then travel to Atlantica, but once again, fuck that noise. They then travel to Olympus Coliseum where they team up with Aaron to help Hercules stop Hades. Aaron gives the trio his thanks for saving him before and leaves. They then travel to Agrabah where they discover that Jafar has been released from his lamp. They manage to finally defeat him and Aladdin and Jasmine give their goodbyes. They then travel to Halloween Town and they team up with Jack Skellington to figure out who's been stealing Santa Claus's presents. They discover that the thief is the Doctor's experiment and defeat it. Celebrating, Jack and Sally dance together as Sora imagines him and Kairi doing the same. They then travel to the Pride Lands and help Simba face off against some phantoms of Scar. They fight against the giant Heartless and save everyone. Traveling back to Hollow Bastion, they realize that the MCP has taken over the system and is unleashing Heartless onto the town. The trio heads to the castle to meet up with Leon and run into the Gullwings, demanding treasure. When they realize that the trio had lied to them before, they give up and give Sora something to help him on his journey. Making it to the computer room, the trio travel to Space Paranoids, where, with the help of Leon and the gang, upload a special program into Tron. They confront the MCP and defeat both it and Stark. Tron then jumps into the system and takes control of it. Back in the real world, the trio discover that Tron has found a hidden program of the town, activating it. They watch the town being restored to its original state, as Aerith tells them that this world used to be called something else.
Radiant Garden.
Before moving on though, if you go to the spot where you encountered Xemnas during the Battle of the Hollow Bastion, you'll end up finding Sephiroth there. If you confront him, he'll ask what Cloud is doing. He then asks who the trio is and is fascinated by the Keyblade. He then decides to take the Keyblade so that he can take it as his own. After fending Sephiroth off, he'll tell you to bring Cloud to him. Sora then tells Cloud where Sephiroth is and they go confront him. The two battle as Sephiroth proceeds to taunt Cloud that he'll never be able to defeat him. Tifa then arrives, encouraging Cloud and demanding that she help. Tifa then attacks Sephiroth until Cloud comes to her aid. Tifa then offers Cloud her light and Cloud and Sephiroth attack each other, disappearing in the air. Tifa, though upset at his disappearance, stays determined and says that she will continue looking for Cloud. She gives Sora something as thanks and then heads out. Sensing some weird energy, the trio travel to Twilight Town where they find Hayner and the gang passed out in front of the mansion, having previously been looking for Kairi. Because of the two identical pouch and stone, they summarize that there might be a fake Twilight Town somewhere, and that is where Kairi might be. They are then attacked by Dust and King Mickey arrives to help them. Mickey then informs the trio that he's discovered that Ansem the Wise has made it into Organization 13's stronghold. They all enter the mansion and explore it, coming across the computer room. Pence then works on the computer and they enter the password, sea salt ice cream, that being Ansem's favorite. They activate a portal as Hayner and the others stay behind to hold down the fort. They enter the fake Twilight Town that Roxas came from and they find a portal to the stronghold. While traveling in the lanes between, they are surrounded by an army of dust. About to be defeated, they are rescued by Axel, who helps them out. Axel tells Sora that Saïx kidnapped Kairi from him. Beaten down, and with his last amount of strength, Axel pulls off a massive attack, defeating all of the dust. However, this causes him to lose all of his power and he starts to fade away. He apologizes to Sora for what he did to Kairi and says that all he wanted to do was see Roxas again, as he was the only one he liked.
He made me feel like I had a heart. It's kind of funny. You make me feel the same. Kairi's in the castle dungeon. Now go!
He then opens a portal for the trio and dies. Meanwhile, Organization 13 discussed the loss of their various members, with Syax calling Axel foolish and weak. Xemnas says that Axel managed to touch Sora's heart, and that someone may awaken soon. The trio make it to Organization 13's stronghold, the world that never was. At the skyscraper of memory, they are attacked by a cloaked figure and dust. The cloaked figure teleports Sora to the dive to the heart. He attacks Sora with 2 Keyblades and they fight. Sora manages to defeat him and the cloaked figure is revealed to be Roxas. We then see a flashback of Roxas awakening for the first time as Xemnas approaches him. He gives him the name Roxas and tells him that he can give him purpose. We then see Roxas sitting at the top of the clock tower as Axel joins him. He comments that the two are going to go to sleep now and that they might not see each other again. Thinking about something that Naminé said, Axel asks Roxas if he really doesn't have a heart, and that they might actually all have one in the end. Roxas is unsure, but says that if something is there, they could feel it, and that Sora will find the answer. Axel, happy with this, gives Roxas some sea salt ice cream. Axel talks about the good times when they shared ice cream together and watched the sunset. As Roxas begins to fade away, he tells Axel to take care, and Axel says the same, as a tear falls to the ground.
You make a good other.
Back in the real world, the trio travel on to the castle and make their way inside. In the castle, Kairi and Pluto are locked up in a jail cell, with Syax saying that Sora will come for her soon. Wanting to go to Sora, Kairi sees that a portal opens, with Naminé telling her to follow her. Escaping together, they run into Syax, who tries to stop them. The cloaked figure saves them, and Naminé reveals that this person is Riku, who wields a new Keyblade, Way to the Dawn. Syax escapes, and Kairi takes off Riku's hood, revealing him to look like Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. Meanwhile, the trio is confronted by Syax, who tells them that Kingdom Hearts has finally been completed, it being a giant moon in the sky. He says that they have no further use for him, and sets a bunch of Heartless on them. Sora finally sees Kairi but is attacked by the Heartless. Wanting to help him, Kairi is given a new Keyblade from Riku, Destiny's Embrace. Kairi joins the fight with Riku behind her. Maleficent and P arrive, planning on making the castle their own. Meanwhile, Mickey makes his way up to the castle where he saves Diz from some dust. Diz's disguise fades away and reveals himself to be Ansem the Wise. Ansem tells Mickey that Riku looks the way he does now because Riku decided to fully embrace the darkness in order to bring Roxas to Diz. Blaming himself for everything, he sets off to make amends to everyone, with Mickey following behind him. Elsewhere, Xigbar approaches Sora and calls him Roxas. He tells Sora that the Keyblade picked a dud with Sora this time, and that he isn't like the other wielders at all. He then proceeds to fight them and they manage to defeat Xigbar. Sora asks Xigbar why he called him Roxas. Xigbar dismisses this question and disappears. Meanwhile, at the top of the castle, Xemnas tells Syax to go and end this whole charade. The trio manage to make their way to Riku and Kairi, with Sora and Kairi embracing. When Kairi reveals that the man with her is Riku, Sora falls to the ground, in happiness. When Riku tells Sora to pull himself together, they all decide to finish the battle together. Elsewhere, Ansem the Wise activates his device to reclaim Kingdom Hearts and encode it as data. Seeing this, the trio travel on, but are trapped by Luxord. Sora fights him alone and manages to defeat him. Luxord calls Sora Roxas as he disappears for good. They then come across Syax, who does the same. The trio fight him and he dies off, asking Kingdom Hearts where his heart is. Sora asks why everyone calls him Roxas, and Riku reveals that Roxas is Sora's nobody, because Sora had turned into a Heartless back in Kingdom Hearts 1. He tells them about when he fought Roxas and had to use the power of darkness to defeat him. He tells Sora that he thinks that Roxas left the organization because he wanted to meet Sora. Riku tells him that Roxas is always in Sora's heart, and they travel on. They catch up to Ansem the Wise and Mickey, with Ansem's device about to explode. Xemnas then arrives to mock his former teacher. Ansem tells Riku to protect everyone as the device explodes, killing him. This, however, causes a giant hole to appear in Kingdom Hearts, releasing more and more Heartless into the world. The blast somehow causes Riku to go back to normal, and he sheds off his black coat and blindfold. They go off to defeat Xemnas, but are cornered by an army of darkness. Maleficent and Pete suddenly appear and charge the Heartless, saying that they'll battle Sora and his friends when the time comes. They all manage to reach the very top of the castle, where Xemnas grieves over the loss of his Kingdom Hearts. He tells them to go and collect more hearts for him, and when they refuse, they ask why they can accept both light and darkness, but refuse those that travel at the edge of nothing. They dismiss the question, and Xemnas transports Sora to the skyscraper of memory, where Sora fights Xemnas alone. Thinking that he's defeated him, he returns to the group, but they see Xemnas begging Kingdom Hearts to give him more power. Xemnas then teleports away as the group goes to confront him. They fight him in a transformed world that never was, and he attacks them with giant skyscrapers. Kairi and Mickey are separated from the others, and Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Riku bring down the giant castle and they defeat Xemnas, who is encased in special armor. Back in the real world, Xemnas says that he needs more rage and more hearts.
Xemnas, there's more to a heart than just anger or hate. It's full of all kinds of feelings. Don't you remember?
Unfortunately, I don't.
Celebrating, they all decide to head home when Naminé appears before them and opens a pathway for them. Pluto appears and he, Donald, Goofy, and Mickey head through the portal. Sora and Kairi thank Naminé and Roxas appears, happy to see Naminé again. They say that whenever Sora and Kairi are together, they'll be together as well. Roxas and Naminé fuse back into Sora and Kairi and they become whole again. The three friends start to head into the portal, but the castle shakes as the portal closes, Kairi managing to make it out though. The world changes as the giant dragon sails towards them, causing the castle to crumble before them. They manage to catch a ride, and together they bring the dragon down. Entering it, they face an armored Xemnas once again. Defeating him, Sora and Riku are transported to a void of nothingness, as Xemnas in his zebra best appears before them. They fight him one last time, working together and finally managing to defeat him for good. Trying to find a way out of the void, Sora, helping Riku walk, find their way into the realm of darkness, at the shores of a beach. Resting by the water, the two converse with each other. Then a bottle with a letter inside of it washes up to their feet. Opening it, they discover that the letter is from Kairi. It says,
Thinking of you wherever you are. We pray for our sorrows to end, and hope that our hearts will blend.
Now I will step forward to realize this wish. And who knows? Starting a new journey may not be so hard. Or maybe it's already begun. There are many worlds, but they share the same sky. One sky, one destiny.
The door to light then suddenly appears before them and they enter it together. They find themselves falling from the sky and into the ocean. They hear Kairi shouting to them and they see that they have made it back to Destiny's Island. Sanctuary starts to play and I'm crying once again as Mickey, Donald, and Goofy jump into the water and the friends unite.
I watch you fast asleep.
We're back.
You're home.
During the credits, we see what is happening to a bunch of characters from different worlds. We see Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and some others returning to Disney Castle. We see Sora returning to the secret spot and sees the drawing that Kairi added to at the end of the first game, smiling at it. A little while later, we see Sora and Riku resting on the island, Riku happy to be back home in this small world. Sora then asks Riku what he thinks the door to the light was. He points to Sora's heart, and that it's always closer than you think. Kairi then runs to them with a letter in a bottle from King Mickey. They excitedly open it and start to read a letter that will lead them to their next adventure. Before we wrap this up, there is one final thing to discuss as it's bonus time. After beating the game, if you go back to Disney Castle, you'll find a portal that will lead you to a barren wasteland. There you'll find a suit of armor kneeling in front of a Keyblade, this being the Lingering Will. He speaks out the names of Aqua and Ven. When Sora summons the Keyblade, he asks who Sora is, and also comments that though he met Sora before, he is not the one he chose. He then proceeds to angrily shout Xehanort's name, stands up, draws out his Keyblade, and attacks Sora. The trio manage to fend him off, and the Lingering Will acknowledges Sora's power. He then kneels in front of his Keyblade yet again, and rests. And that's finally it, everyone! Kingdom Hearts 2. It was a long-ass game, and yet there is still so much more to go. What is in the letter from King Mickey at the end of the game? Well, you'll just have to wait and see. Tune in next time for Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2.